You're the best. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to 2019. We made it to another one. I'm really jazzed to be here speaking with you because you guys are my tribe. We all share creativity. We speak a language that we understand. And it's all about identifying creativity as an incredible power source in our lives. And as Mark says, is an opportunity to create community. I am very grateful for speaking. I've come to realize that Creative Mornings has the capacity to be an incredible driving force. And we're here in a very quiet, peaceful, beautiful corner of the world where we actually have the ability to make creative changes in the world in a very dynamic way. And this organization, this coming together every month, has the capacity to really do something that's remarkable and meaningful. And I encourage all of us just to keep the momentum up. So thanks for coming. I'm really grateful to be here. Mark, as you know, invited me to talk about the surreal and creativity. Creativity is something that most of us artists, as I'm sure you will agree, think about all the time. I mean, we have our private incantations and rituals in our studio that allow us to make work, to keep the muses flowing through us. I have my own rituals. It's developed over a number of years. I've been lucky enough to be an artist professionally for about 35 years. And in that time, I've realized an awful lot of change in my work. I started in a very kind of realistic way. I was very much of the mind, I guess it was Picasso that said, learn the rules and then break the rules. So I learned to render in drawing really well, and I painted accurately. And then I decided to let my subconscious take over, and that's when the surrealism kicked in. This is actually one of my collages. It's an homage to Magritte, as you probably can tell. The surrealists have always had a profound effect on me. I liken their work to collage. That in the works of paintings, for example, of Magritte or Dali, they would present disparate ideas that were conflicting and confusing, but somehow that unlocked a pathway to your subconscious that was new and powerful and fresh. And as Mark described so well, the surrealist movement, that was what it was all about. It was trying to find their place after a horrific war. And after the world, that part of the world was being swept aside by nationalism and fascism and so on and so forth. They were just trying to make sense. And I think that that's not an uncommon theme in our present state of mind. This is the definition of my definition of a surrealist. This is the other joke. How many surrealists does it take to change a light bulb? My answer, 3. 2 to hold down the giraffe, and 1 to fill the bathtub full of wrenches. They're not supposed, beg your pardon? Thanks. They're not supposed to make sense. It's about confounding rational thinking and coming to a fresh kind of understanding. And that's very much a part of my creative process. My definition of creativity is confident curiosity. And as all of you know, because whether you're an artist or a physician or a designer, architect, whatever, when it comes to creativity, we realize that it's not an easy thing to find. It's an important thing to find. And once you find your creative voice, the challenge is to keep it going and keeping it strong, and hopefully to share it in a meaningful way. For me, I'm lucky enough to have had my practice long enough that I'm very confident in what I do. And that only happens through time. Creativity is not something that you actually can be taught. It's something that you need to learn through experience, and you have to put in the hours. But if you love it, it's time well spent, and it's a joy to do. So consequently, in my process, if I'm faced with a canvas, for example, a raw canvas, and I want to find my progression in it, I'll make some strokes and I'll do some preliminary exploration. And it's almost as if I'm in a forest and I'm just trying to make a track through the forest. And the next day I come in and I enter the same way and I kind of widen that track. And the whole time I'm realizing that I'm actually creating neural pathways in my brain. So that over the course of this canvas, for example, the track becomes a small road, becomes a highway, becomes a speedway. And in that process, you become confident, you become more open-minded, you're open to surprise, and that's when, for me, creativity really happens. This is a painting I did of me as a child in the prairies. I grew up in Calgary, an only child in a lovely little family of teachers. My mother taught at the same school that I attended, so I was watched, and I really was monitored. But I became a real geek for learning. I loved it. I ended up going through my entire 12 years without missing a day. But this is a painting of my mother used to wrap me up when I was about 5 years old in the 30-degree below zero, and she'd send me out to have fun. But we'd always live in neighborhoods where there were no other kids. So I'd go and look, and it was just prairie. And I would just turn and say, "Can I come in now?" I mean, I knew that there were better things to do than actually just standing there. But the upside of that kind of life that I had was my mom allowed me to do a lot of drawing on her blackboard. And that's how I learned to draw. And it wasn't just about rendering things in an accurate way. I used to load up the chalk brush, or the brush in the old days. I'm sure they don't have them anymore. And load it up with chalk and then pound it and make patterns and outline them. And I learned depth and volume and things that I still am rediscovering in my abstract work. So it's interesting that things keep coming back. That pathway again, that confidence of something that you learned earlier on. These were the drawings that I used to do as a kid. This is my cousin Linda. As I said, I used to draw very accurately. And once I learned that, I decided to relax a little. I didn't actually think that art was going to be my career path. I really connected with biology. I wanted to be a doctor. So I got my undergraduate degree in biology. Just before I was going to apply to medical school, I decided to take a gap year. In those days, it was the late 70s, everyone got a backpack with a little Canadian flag. And I left Calgary, and I decided to go traveling for a couple of months. And I was gone 6 years. I went around the world twice by myself, and I discovered a part of me that I didn't know existed. I was faced with a lot of challenges that Mark, for example, alluded to. And when you come through those challenges, you develop a sense of indomitable ability. I really knew that I could rely upon myself to get through anything. But however, I had the advantage. I'm male, I'm white, I'm English speaking, I'm educated. And in those days, there wasn't a country that I couldn't enter, that I wasn't welcomed. It was a different world then, of course. The whole time I was gone, I filled sketchbooks with drawings and watercolors and so on and so forth, and sent them back to my family where they piled up. It was really a rich time for me. And when you're a traveler on the road, you connect with other travelers and you swap books. English books were so valuable. So I got such a great education on those 24-hour bus rides across Malaysia, reading novels this thick. So I was really nourished in a lot of ways. I was very fortunate. I got my residency in Australia, and in 1985, I decided to take my first HIV test, and it came back positive, which was devastating. certainly. And especially in those days, there was no hope. There was a lot of prejudice. I got beaten up several times just because I look gay, and I am, but I looked it. And there was no therapy. So the doctor suggested that I just come back to Canada and put my affairs in order. And as you probably remember, the plague, I'll call it, was devastating. It was fierce, and it leveled communities. I was living in the West End, and people were dropping like flies. I lost family members, many friends. Somehow, luckily, I hung on long enough to get the first meds, the AZT in 1987. And I kept getting meds, and I kept getting sicker, but I get new meds. And over the course of many years, I went through 20, 30 different kind of meds, but I kept my health. The whole time, I decided to keep painting. That was my goal, to go to the studio and get another painting done every day. That's what kept me alive. The work that I was doing at that time was landscape-based. I was merely painting the things that moved me, that I'd see out my window or in my experience. Vancouver was going through a tremendous facelift. Excuse me, the changes that were happening were dramatic. And it turned out that I turned out to be a record keeper of what was happening in Vancouver over a specific time. The paintings had their own special quality. I was merely painting the way that I see. I've got black and white in one eye, and I've got severe astigmatism in the other. And they have enhanced my work in the most remarkable way. I really suggest that no matter what you do, you use your faults. Use the things that you think are your challenges. The astigmatism really caused wonderful haloing effects, so I get complementary relationships, blue and oranges and violets and yellows. And also it caused the wiggle that you might know in some of that work. This is another drawing that I did of my mom who came to visit me in Bali. Bali is where my spiritual life began, and I actually began as an artist. My mom used to come and we'd do magic mushrooms, and she'd get on the back of my motorcycle, and we'd go up to the volcano. So that was who nurtured me. So here's an example of the work that I was doing at the time. You can see that's kind of a wobble. And this is the Vancouver Rowing Club, which is my second home. Rowing is an essential part of the triad of my life. I have my rowing, I have my painting, and I have my home life with a wonderful partner for 35 years now. And one feeds the other, feeds the other, feeds the other. And I tried to experiment with one other leg in that kind of configuration, and it was too much. This has maintained a really effective way for me to get my work done, get my fitness done, and keep my heart healthy. So that's the rowing club. Here's an example of our neighborhood down here. The Sylvia, and you can see the wobble. I've always felt that inanimate objects actually have a spirit in them, that they actually have a life, that things do kind of slump, and that sort of thing. And as I say, I just kind of enhance the way that I see things. And this is from a photograph from the 40s, right out here, when this part of the city was the hub. And for all of us who have lived in Vancouver for a long time, we really realize what an incredibly colorful history that we've had here. And this, where we are right now, was right in the center of it all. I kept painting. My HIV was known to my friends and family, of course, but I didn't want it to be a public issue. I didn't want to be pitied. I didn't want it to be the thing that people knew about me. But unfortunately, look at me today. I am very much that guy. In 2005, all therapy stopped working for me. I got really sick. I lost lots of weight. My face, everything just became horrific. And they were throwing all kinds of meds at me, and nothing was working. So I'm a dear friend of Dr. Julio Montana, who's our champion, who works out of the BC Center for Excellence. And he was our advocate to go to Ottawa and ask for 2 drugs that looked really hopeful overseas that hadn't been licensed in Canada. We have a compassionate access program with Health Canada, and it allows anybody to ask Health Canada for just about anything, as long as they obviously face the consequences. And we were turned down repeatedly. There were 6 of us in a group, 6 men that were desperately ill, and we kept getting shut down. And it was because Julio was such an outspoken critic of what was happening in the inaction that was happening in Ottawa. So he called me into his office and he says, "You've got to do this. I can't do it." And I was faced with something that I had no capacity to think about how I could get help for us. So I talked to a friend of mine who worked at the Vancouver Sun, and I told him the story, and it was hard coming out about this situation. And he said, "Just leave it to me." And within 2 days, it was a national story. Dying West Coast artist denied life-saving drugs. And I was thrust into the limelight, looking awful, feeling weak. And after 10 months of being turned down, very angry, I was drunk on anger. I wanted to leave a record of what I was going through. So I did this painting. It's a painting of St. Paul's Hospital. To be perfectly honest, the working title of the painting was "My Government is Trying to Kill Me." Then after this painting was published in the Vancouver Sun, there was a groundswell of support for us, and Vancouver really rescued us. We ended up getting the drugs in January 2006. Unfortunately, one of the men in our group had died by that time, and another had slipped into a coma. So there were 4 of us that were still vital and angry. I was determined to unseat Minister Desange, and unluckily for him, his campaign office was here in Vancouver. So we picketed, we dropped off coffins, we did everything to humiliate him, and we won with the support of Vancouver. We got the drugs, and within 1 month, we all became undetectable, which was remarkable after fighting something for so many years. I still get shaken up. Anyway, we all bounced back, and I realized how important it was for me to stay connected with the community that had saved our lives. I wanted to address that story, but I didn't want it to be my only story. I have accumulated a ton of pill bottles. I still take massive amounts of medication, which is fine. I mean, we all get something, right? And with these pill bottles, I wanted to do a series of self-portraits. So this one is called A Knife Called Defiance. I inherited a lot of things from Doris and Jack Shadbolt. They were very good friends. And out of Jack's studio, he gave me a beautiful little X-Acto knife, an ancient one, red, and on the side of it was the word defiance. And I really felt that was a completely apt title for this, I think, rather prickly self-portrait of what I had been going through. I inherited also Doris and Jack's library when they passed away. All their art books and that sort of thing, and they were kind of collecting dust in my studio. I discovered that a lot of them were duplicates of the ones that I had, so I decided to liberate them. I decided to start cutting up art books, which is a sacrilege, right? The way that we grew up. But it really opened up a whole new method of working. And this is when the surrealism kind of kicked in. I felt that I had developed my skills with accuracy in painting. Then I kind of addressed this psychological break that happened when my health returned and I started feeling great again. And then collaging opened up a method of working that I still use today. And this has been quite a number of years. So as I alluded to before, confidence is what creativity is all about. And what I've been able to do now is find myself in a place where I'll sit at my table with bits and pieces of clippings. I like to reference art history. I mean, I plunder art history. I like to reference artists that were going through the same kind of political or social situations that we're going through now. I like to, I'm drawn to the modernists, for example, the Brocks and so on, that we're seeing the rise of fascism, seeing the rise of populism, and trying to find parts of their work, marks that might translate into something meaningful in a psychological way for us. So I decided to continue working this way. The collages that I make are all studies for the paintings that I make. And here's some examples of finished collages. What's interesting is these things are very automatic. I just put things together. I'll cut out something and I'll lay it over something else. And my being open-minded allows me to come up with solutions that I couldn't have imagined if I had determined it that. So this was done talking about white supremacy that was sweeping at the time. Here's my homage to Francis Bacon. So I took Mickey Mouse and I cut him out and I reconfigured him into kind of a figure, those wonderful grotesque figures that Bacon does. This next one is called the Milkmaids of Assignières. So as you can see, probably that there's a reference to Vermeer, right? Can you see that? Yep, okay. If you turn your head sideways and look at the woman, it's actually The Bathers of Assignières by Seurat. And this kind of relationship is magic. This is something that, as I say, I couldn't have achieved by intention. And it's just fueled a whole new method of working for me. Here's another one, Our Better Angels, where we have two identical forms, clearly from different cultural backgrounds, but were watched over by the same angels. Here's another homage to Dali. Upside down, it's a woman with her back cut out that's being supported by a stick. And all of these, this for example, is my comments on women and children that are having such a hard time on borders, being separated and so on and so forth. Here's a myth of security. It's a Dick and Jane book. I cut out the figures and then laid them over an Andy Warhol print of revolvers. And somehow the revolvers really liberated the figures into these howling creatures. As I say, I do paintings from all of these studies. It's a really easy way to work. I mean, throwing these collages together and coming up with something that's really surprising, and then committing yourself to being faithful to that is really an exciting exercise. And it really liberates me to go to the canvas and have a place to start. You know, making the collage, half the work is done already, right? You know where you're going. You're not faced with an empty canvas. 2 years ago, exactly this month, I was diagnosed with liver cancer, inoperable. And I was given the news and I told the doctor, no, I don't think so. So I found another doctor and she said, let's go in, let's see what we can do. So I was given a month before my surgery. The surgery was in January and I was given a month from December 13th, 2 years ago. And I just said, okay, let's go into the studio and let's start making real work. I wanted to make the work that I somehow hadn't, that I really wanted to. So it kicked me into abstraction. It kicked me into unlocking my subconscious, not in a figurative way. I mean, these collages I've just been showing you obviously are the figurative, and these are far more abstract. So this is the work that I'm doing now that's incredibly satisfying. The Wrath of Zeus. I don't even know where the sources were of these pieces, but I gather artwork, cut them up, arrange them in some kind of relationship of color so that one image slips into another. There's kind of, I just had a show, Pendulum, it was about affinities, and that's how best I can describe what's going on here. Finding a way for one idea to find an affinity for another. This is Birth of the Cool. I love Miles Davis, and this was his 1957 album that really excites me still. There's some modernist elements, there's some contemporary elements, and these are large canvases. This is, I think, 7 feet by 5 feet. And again, I have a wonderful fresh start with the collages. This one is the 11th Hour. It actually began as a black and white composition of modernists. And then as I stepped back, it actually became the Infanta from Las Meninas by Velázquez. And so that's where that is kind of developing. This is a mural I did in Kitsilano this past summer, 1873, West 4th, 87 feet by 15. This is my take on Demoiselles Avenue. These are all large abstractions. Still life with artillery. And pattern recognition. Now, for me, abstraction is exciting because it dares to be sensuous, it dares to be soulful at a time when human existence is so delineated in a very intellectualized and cold way. I think it's universal, it's timeless, it's not locked in a particular time period. For me, it's the most exciting thing that I've ever done. Now, in conclusion, I think that we all have an opportunity here to keep going and doing something great. The world is visually malnourished. We can correct that, I believe, with what we do. What I would like to suggest is I challenge you all to, in this coming year, make a work of art that's good for the world. Do something meaningful for us. We've got an opportunity now, and I think we need to grab it. So I'm very grateful for your attention. Thank you for welcoming me so warmly, and I'm looking forward to our conversations afterwards. Thank you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
So I'm going to walk around with this microphone and pretend I'm Merv Griffin. Who has questions? Come on up, Tiko. Who has some questions for Tiko?
Merv Griffin.
Thank you very much, Tiko. That was the best Creative Morning talk that I've been to, and I've been to quite a few.
Oh, you're very kind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I learned so much about using your faults and on and on. My question is, do you think of how your work will be received when you're creating it? Does that influence your work?
In the beginning, it did. When I was looking for representation, I have been working in the commercial gallery realm. So when I'd have a show with a gallery, they have to talk about the work, so they need to have some kind of guidance from you. But I'm at the stage now where I leave that up to other people. I just do the work, and I'm working on this next show with the Gordon Smith Gallery, and I'm working with a curator, and I just do the work, and she decides how to interpret it, and it's so liberating. So there are many ways to do it. That's just the way that I've found the way.
Tiko, have you ever done a piece thinking it would be received a certain way and it was totally like people reacted negatively or completely surprisingly in a way that you hadn't expected?
All the time.
Really?
All the time. I'll have people come to my studio, and I'll have something that I think it has no value at all, and they go nuts for it, or something that I really spend time on, and it's completely dismissed. So you just never really know. I mean, I believe every painting has their particular home to go to, and I try not to get in the way of that decision.
If you get a chance and you don't want to wait for the next East Side Culture Crawl, use your Creative Mornings cred to wiggle your way into his studio and check out his. It's incredible. Like, there's 8-foot tall paintings stacked against the walls, and it's just this really impressive creative space. It just vibrates.
Chaos.
I saw hands over here. It's chaos. I love it. Who was that? Who had their hand over here? Chicken.
Thank you for your vulnerability around your health. And I'm wondering about how that's influenced. You talked about it inspired different things. And I'm more curious about health and process in terms of, did you have to make different choices at different times in what you could do or couldn't do energetically? Thinking about many people I know who almost feel like they have to let go of their creativity when their health is compromised. So I'm curious about that.
Well, as I was saying, when I was fighting HIV for a long time, I didn't have a lot of strength. So I would make myself go into the studio and get something done, even if it was minimal. And I'd have to come home. And that would change as the medications became effective or not. What I will tell you, though, is that after my liver surgery, they removed 40% of my liver. What's remarkable is that the liver regenerates itself. So within 2 months, I grew a new liver, and I feel like I'm 18 years old again. So I'm at peak productivity. So I hope that answers your question. It's all of our creative juices are based in the physical, and if we take care of ourselves, then we have more energy for creativity. But that can be limited by health challenges, for sure.
And health aside, for a 65-year-old man, you look good.
Thanks.
Oh, there it is. Look at this. Look at this sheepish. Look at this. I have my hand up just a little bit.
Thanks, Tiko. I'm going to request a little more vulnerability. I hope you don't interpret it as a jerkish question, but it seems like you've had a few death sentences in your life, and I'd love to know why you didn't give up.
That's a very good question. I don't think any of us would really. I shouldn't be general that way. I had the energy to fight. I, for example, had a partner to live for. I had a family to live for. And also, anger is a terrifically effective method of going forward. That's how I got out of my jam on the island of Flores in Indonesia. I was so upset with these soldiers that wanted to shoot my dog, and I got out of that because I was angry. So in the creative sphere, I think I don't know. I guess I still have anger issues. Thanks, Jacques.
I saw a hand over here. Oh my gosh, you people. Where?
Don't be shy.
Where are you pointing? Oh.
Kudos to the bundled little boy at the bottom of the stairs.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My question was about converting drunk on anger into positivity, and I think you just answered it with the last question, so you don't need to repeat it, but thanks again to that little boy who came in from the cold.
Thank you. That's very poetic. Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, definitely one of my also favorite creative mornings.
Thank you.
You have a very surreal, your art is very surreal, but so is your life. And my question to you is, you have an incredible story. Have you thought of writing it into a book, memoirs? Have you done it? Are you doing it?
Well, I have lots of journals that I've written. I've never read any of them. I'm too busy making paintings. If someone wants to write a book, I'm happy to go along with it. But I'm so passionate about being in front of my canvas. I mean, I paint 6-7 days a week, and that's still not enough for me. So if a book would happen someday, that's fine. But that's not my priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody want to write a book? Oh, you want to write a book? Yeah.
Talk to me later.
Alex is like, I'll write a book. One or two more, and then we'll call it. Yep.
Thanks, Tiko. You said as a call out that you wanted all of us to create a piece of work to go out there in the world. Where would we start?
In your soul. Do something that's really meaningful to you, like an issue that really connects. It's the personal connection to an issue that will make it successful and will keep you engaged with it. It might not be a work that takes a week to do. It might take a year to do. But if you find something that's really personal, it'll translate to other people. And that translation is imperative if it starts with something that means something to you. Welcome.
Last question.
Hi there. It's not a
Hi.
question. I'm just going to say that I'm not a morning person. So this was definitely worth getting up for. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
I'm
everyone.
going to ask you the last question.
Okay.
What is a question that we should have asked?
How to define success in your creative career, I guess.
Hey, Tiko,
Yeah.
how would you define success in your creative career?
It's incremental. It's little successes. I don't think any of us, well, maybe Damien Hirst has, but I don't believe any of us really have achieved success unless it's a systematic. For example, in commercial galleries, it's not one great exhibition. It's a lifetime of exhibitions. It's about the commitment. And I think I'm, frankly, just beginning. You know, I with my new work, I think that this is just the beginning of success for me. I'm finding that the new work is really getting a great reaction from people. People are really surprised at the change that's happened from the wobbly buildings.
And when do we get to see the new show?
The show's at Gordon Smith Gallery, opens May 11th, I think, and it runs till September. It's a summer show.
On behalf of all of us,
So,
thank you very much.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Tiko Kerr, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.